On the day of a young woman's wedding, everything crumbles in a cruel betrayal. Everyone laughed, but an unexpected turn leads her to a future no one could have predicted. But first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories of love and overcoming like this one. The sun had barely risen when Emily opened her eyes, her heart racing with the realization that the big day had finally arrived. Today, she would marry Nathan, the man who had stolen her heart 5 years ago on a sunny afternoon in Central Park. Sitting up in bed, Emily let her eyes wander around her childhood bedroom, now filled with memories and dreams about to come true. The wedding dress, carefully hung in the closet, shimmered with the soft morning light filtering through the lace curtains. "Good morning, sweetheart," her mother's sweet voice, Mrs. Anderson, echoed down the hallway. Soon after, the door opened, revealing the smiling face of the Anderson family matriarch. "Today is your day, my flower." Emily smiled, feeling a mix of emotions stirring in her chest. "Good morning, Mum. I can hardly believe the day has arrived." Mrs. Anderson approached, sitting on the edge of the bed and holding her daughter's hands. "Oh, my dear. It seems like just yesterday you were taking your first steps in this room, and now look at you. A beautiful woman, college graduate, about to start your own family." The two embraced, sharing a moment of tenderness and nostalgia. Emily felt tears forming in her eyes, but held them back. Today was not a day for crying, even if it was from happiness. "Come on, get up, we have a long day ahead," said Mrs. Anderson, patting her daughter's leg lightly. "Breakfast is almost ready, and your friends will be here soon to help with the preparations." The mention of her friends made Emily smile even more. Olivia, Sophia, and Madison, her best friends since high school, were her bridesmaids and had promised to make this the most special day of her life. As she got ready in the bathroom, Emily couldn't help but think about how her life had changed in recent years. With a degree in environmental engineering, she now worked at an important consulting firm, fulfilling her dream of contributing to a more sustainable world. Nathan, her fiancé, shared that passion, being an architect specializing in eco-friendly constructions. The sound of the doorbell interrupted her thoughts. "Emily, your friends are here," shouted her father, Mr. Anderson, from downstairs. Emily descended the stairs, still in her robe, and was greeted by a chorus of excited screams. Olivia, Sophia, and Madison, all dressed in personalized t-shirts with the phrase "Team Bride," hugged her enthusiastically. "The big day has finally arrived," exclaimed Olivia, the most extroverted of the group. "I can't wait to see you in that stunning dress," said Sophia, always attentive to aesthetic details. Madison, the calmest and most thoughtful, held Emily's hands. "We're so happy for you, Em. You deserve all the happiness in the world." Her friend's words warmed Emily's heart. She had known them for so long, shared so many moments together, that it was hard to imagine this day without them by her side. "Thank you, girls. You have no idea how much it means to me to have you here," said Emily, emotional. The rest of the morning passed in a whirlwind of activities. Between last-minute adjustments to the dress, makeup, and hair sessions, and countless photos, Emily barely had time to breathe. Her friends were always by her side, offering words of support and ensuring everything ran perfectly. In the early afternoon, with preparations almost complete, Olivia made an unexpected announcement. "Em, we have a surprise for you." Emily looked curiously at her friends. "A surprise? But you've already done so much for me." Sophia smiled mysteriously. "Did you really think we'd let you get married without a proper bachelorette party?" Emily's heart skipped a beat. "But the ceremony is in a few hours." "Relax," said Madison, placing her hand on her friend's shoulder. "It'll be something quick and discreet, just a toast to your happiness." Emily hesitated for a moment. She wasn't much for parties, and the nervousness of the wedding was already making her a bit anxious. However, seeing the excited faces of her friends, she didn't have the heart to refuse. "All right," she finally agreed. "But nothing too extravagant, okay?" The three friends exchanged knowing looks. "Of course not," Olivia assured her. "Trust us." Half an hour later, Emily found herself in a discreet bar not far from her house. The place was practically empty, except for them and a few scattered customers. Her friends ordered a round of drinks, insisting that Emily try a special cocktail that, according to them, was perfect for brides. As they drank and chatted animatedly about plans for the future, Emily couldn't help but notice a man sitting alone at the bar. He seemed out of place, wearing a suit too elegant for that relaxed environment. For a moment their eyes met, and Emily felt an inexplicable shiver run down her spine. "Is everything okay, Em?" asked Madison, noticing her friend's distraction. Emily shook her head, pushing away the strange feeling. "Yes, just a little nervous about the wedding, I guess." Her friends laughed and proposed another toast. Emily brought the glass to her lips, not knowing that this gesture would change the course of her life forever. As time passed, Emily began to feel strangely dizzy. Her friends' voices seemed distant, and the environment around her started to spin gently. "I think I need to go to the bathroom," she mumbled, getting up with difficulty. Sophia offered to accompany her, but Emily insisted she could go alone. On the way to the bathroom, her legs felt heavy, and she had to lean against the walls to maintain her balance. When she finally reached the bathroom, Emily looked at herself in the mirror. Her reflection seemed blurred and she had difficulty focusing. "What's happening to me?" she thought, frightened. Trying to compose herself, she splashed some water on her face. It was at that moment that she heard the door open. Turning around, she saw the man in the suit she had noticed earlier. Before she could react, she felt her knees weaken, and everything went dark. The following hours passed like a confused blur in Emily's mind. Flashes of memory, lights, distorted voices, the touch of unknown hands mixed in her consciousness. When she finally fully regained her senses, she was back at her house, lying in her bed, with her friends around her. What happened?" Emily asked, her voice hoarse and her head throbbing. Olivia, Sophia, and Madison exchanged worried looks. It was Olivia who finally spoke. "Em, you got sick at the bar. We thought it best to bring you home to rest a bit before the ceremony." Emily tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness forced her to lie down again. "But what about the wedding? What time is it?" "Don't worry," said Sophia, her voice strangely controlled. "We still have time. The important thing now is for you to recover." As her friends left the room, supposedly to let her rest, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The gaps in her memory, her friend's strange behavior, everything seemed out of place. Looking at the clock on the bedside table, Emily felt her heart sink. There were only 2 hours left until the ceremony, and she could barely stay conscious. How would she make it to the altar like this? And where was Nathan? Why hadn't he called or sent a message? With a heavy heart and a mind full of doubts, Emily closed her eyes, praying that it was all just a nightmare. Little did she know that the real nightmare was just beginning. The afternoon sun was already beginning to set when Emily finally managed to get out of bed. Her head was still throbbing, and a feeling of uneasiness persisted in her stomach. Looking at the clock, she felt a wave of panic. There was only an hour left until the ceremony. "Oh my God, I need to get ready," she exclaimed, trying to ignore the dizziness that plagued her. She called out for her friends but got no response. The house seemed strangely quiet. Stumbling to the closet, Emily found herself face to face with her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes were swollen, her hair disheveled, and the makeup that had been done in the morning was completely smudged. "How could this happen?" she murmured to herself, tears beginning to form in her eyes. At that moment, the bedroom door opened abruptly. Olivia, Sophia, and Madison entered, their faces a mixture of concern and guilt. "Em, we need to talk," said Olivia, her voice trembling slightly. Emily's heart raced. "Talk? But we don't have time. I need to get ready. The ceremony." "The ceremony isn't going to happen, Em," Sophia interrupted, avoiding looking directly at her friend. The world seemed to stop. Emily felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. "What? What do you mean it's not going to happen? Where's Nathan?" Madison stepped forward, holding her phone. "Nathan, he saw this." With trembling hands, Emily took the phone. On the screen, a video started to play. Horrified, she saw herself in the bar bathroom, clearly disoriented, in the arms of the man in the suit she had noticed earlier. The video showed compromising scenes, too intimate to be explained as a misunderstanding. No, this isn't possible," Emily stammered, letting the phone fall to the floor. "I would never do this. You know I love Nathan." The three friends looked at each other, guilt evident on their faces. It was Olivia who finally spoke. "Em, we put something in your drink. That man, we hired him." The revelation hit Emily like a punch to the stomach. She staggered backward, leaning against the wall to keep from falling. You did this to me, but why? I thought you were my friends." Sophia, with tears in her eyes, tried to explain, We thought we were protecting you, Em. Nathan, he's not who you think he is. What are you talking about? Emily shouted, anger and confusion mixing in her voice. Madison took a folder out of her bag and handed it to Emily. We found this a few weeks ago. Their emails, messages. Nathan was cheating on you, Em. With several women. Emily opened the folder with trembling hands. Before her eyes, dozens of messages and photos seemed to confirm Madison's words. Nathan, the man she loved, the man she was about to marry, appeared in compromising situations with other women. No, this can't be true, Emily murmured, tears now flowing freely down her face. We wanted to show you who he really was before it was too late, explained Olivia. We thought if he saw the video he'd cancel the wedding and you'd be spared a life of lies. Emily felt as if her world was crumbling. The people she trusted most, her fiancé and her best friends, had betrayed her trust in the cruelest way possible. Get out, she whispered, her voice loaded with pain and anger. Get out now. The three friends, with tears in their eyes, left the room in silence, leaving Emily alone with her pain and confusion. For hours, Emily remained there, sitting on her bedroom floor, still dressed in her robe, staring fixedly at the wedding dress she would never wear. Her parents, worried about the silence, tried to enter several times, but she had locked the door. When night had already fallen, Emily finally got up. With mechanical movements, she began to dress, not in the wedding dress, but in jeans and a simple blouse. She took a backpack and started filling it with some clothes and personal items. Looking at herself one last time in the mirror, Emily barely recognized the woman staring back at her. Her eyes, once full of hope and love, were now empty, marked by the pain of betrayal. Quietly, she went down the stairs. Her parents, exhausted after hours of worry, had fallen asleep on the living room couch. Emily left a note on the coffee table. I need some time. Please don't worry. I love you. The night was cool when Emily left the house. The streets of the residential neighborhood were quiet, illuminated only by the soft light of the street lamps. With no defined direction, she began to walk, letting her feet guide her. Her thoughts were a whirlwind. How could Nathan betray her like that? They had plans, dreams together, and her friends, how could they orchestrate something so cruel, even if with supposed good intentions? Hours passed, and Emily continued walking. The physical fatigue seemed insignificant compared to the emotional exhaustion she felt. When she finally stopped to observe where she was, she realized her feet had taken her to a square in the city center. The square was almost deserted at that hour of the night, with only a few couples strolling, and a group of young people chatting animatedly near the fountain. Emily sat on a bench, feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders. It was then that she noticed a man sitting a few benches away. He seemed out of place, wearing clothes too elegant for that casual nighttime environment. Something about him caught Emily's attention. Perhaps it was the upright posture, or the way he carefully observed his surroundings. As she discreetly watched him, Emily saw the man clutch his chest, his face contorting in an expression of pain. In seconds, he fell from the bench, writhing on the ground. Without thinking twice, Emily ran towards him. Years of first aid training, which she had done during college, came to the forefront. She knelt beside the man, quickly checking his vital signs. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked, her voice firm despite her nervousness. The man mumbled something unintelligible, his eyes rolling back. Emily shouted to the young people near the fountain, "Call an ambulance, quick!" While they waited for help to arrive, Emily kept the man stable, monitoring his breathing and ensuring he didn't hurt himself. Minutes that seemed like hours passed, until finally the ambulance sirens could be heard. When the paramedics arrived and took over, Emily stepped back, trembling. The adrenaline of the moment was starting to pass, and she felt the weight of everything that had happened that day come back in full force. "Miss?" A voice pulled her from her thoughts. It was one of the paramedics. "The gentleman is asking for you. He wants to thank you personally before we go to the hospital." Hesitantly, Emily approached the stretcher where the man was lying. His eyes, now alert, stared at her with a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. "Thank you," he said, his voice hoarse but firm. You saved my life." Emily tried to smile, but the tears she had held back for so long finally began to fall. I just did what anyone would do." The man gently held her hand. "No, it wasn't just anyone. It was you. What's your name?" "Emily," she answered, sobbing. Emily, he repeated, as if savoring the name. I'm Adam, and I'm sure our meeting wasn't by chance. Before Emily could respond, the paramedics began to move the stretcher towards the ambulance. Adam didn't let go of her hand until the last possible moment. We'll see each other again, Emily, he said as the ambulance doors closed. Emily stood there motionless in the middle of the square, watching the ambulance leave. The sirens echoed in the night, mixing with the sound of her own sobs. In a matter of hours, her life had turned upside down. The wedding, the betrayals, and now this strange encounter. Physically and emotionally exhausted, Emily sat down again on the park bench. For the first time that day, she allowed herself to truly cry, letting all the pain and confusion flow through her tears. As the sky began to lighten with the first rays of dawn, Emily knew her life would never be the same. What the future held for her, she didn't know. But one thing was certain: the day that should have been the happiest of her life had transformed into the beginning of a journey she could never have imagined. The sun was already high in the sky when Emily finally returned home. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, were waiting for her in the living room, their faces marked by worry and sleepless nights. When they saw her enter, both rushed to hug her. "My daughter, where have you been? We were so worried," exclaimed Mrs. Anderson, tears streaming down her wrinkled face. Emily let herself be enveloped by her parents' embrace, feeling for a moment like a child again. "I'm sorry, I needed some time to think." Mr. Anderson, always more reserved, held his daughter's face between his calloused hands. "Emily, what happened? Why was the wedding cancelled?" The mere mention of the wedding made Emily feel a pang in her chest. With a deep sigh, she sat on the couch and began to tell everything that had happened. The bachelorette party, Nathan's betrayal, her friend's scheme, and even the unexpected encounter with Adam in the square. Her parents listened attentively, their faces alternating between expressions of shock, anger, and sadness. When Emily finished her account, a heavy silence fell over the room. It was Mrs. Anderson who finally broke the silence. "My dear, I'm so sorry you went through all of this, but know that we're here for you always." Mr. Anderson nodded, his deep voice loaded with emotion. "Daughter, you are strong, stronger than you imagine. You'll overcome this, and we'll be by your side every step of the way." Her parents' words brought some comfort to Emily, but she knew the road ahead would be difficult. "Thank you, Mom, Dad. I just need some time to process all of this." In the days that followed, Emily isolated herself at home. She turned off her cell phone, ignored social media, and asked her parents not to receive visitors. She needed this time for herself, to heal her wounds and decide what to do next. It was during this period of introspection that Emily received an unexpected visit. She was sitting on the back porch, absently flipping through a magazine, when she heard her mother's voice calling her. "Emily, there's someone here to see you." Intrigued and a little apprehensive, Emily entered the living room. Her eyes widened when she saw who was waiting for her. It was Adam, the man she had helped in the square. "Miss Emily," he said, a gentle smile on his face. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." Emily was speechless for a moment, surprised by his presence. "Adam, how did you find me?" Adam chuckled softly. "It wasn't difficult. Your full name was in the hospital records and, well, let's say I have some connections." Mrs. Anderson, sensing the tension in the air, suggested that the two talk in the garden, where they would have more privacy. Emily reluctantly agreed, curious to know the reason for Adam's visit. Seated on a wooden bench under a leafy maple tree, Adam began to speak. "Emily, I couldn't stop thinking about what happened that night. You saved my life and I didn't even have the chance to thank you properly." Emily lowered her eyes, a little embarrassed. "It was nothing, really. Anyone would have done the same." "No, they wouldn't have," Adam insisted, his voice firm. "You acted with courage and competence when many would have panicked. And you did it at a time when your own life was in turmoil." Emily looked at him, surprised. "How do you know?" Adam smiled gently. "Your eyes that night? They told a story of pain. Besides, it's not hard to put the pieces together when you see a young woman wandering alone through the city, casually dressed, on the night she should have been celebrating her wedding." Adam's words made Emily remember everything that had happened, and she felt tears beginning to form in her eyes. Adam, noticing her emotion, gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Emily, I didn't come here to bring up painful memories. I came because I want to repay what you did for me. I want to offer you an opportunity." Intrigued, Emily wiped away her tears and looked at Adam. What kind of opportunity? Adam adjusted himself on the bench, his face assuming a more serious expression. I own a technology company focused on sustainable solutions. We're always looking for young talent, especially in the field of environmental engineering. I'd like to offer you a scholarship to do a postgraduate degree and later a position in my company. Emily was speechless. But you barely know me. How can you offer me something like this? Adam smiled. Sometimes, Emily, all we need is a chance. You gave me a second chance at life, and now I want to repay you by offering you the chance for a new beginning. Adam's words resonated deeply with Emily. A new beginning? Wasn't that exactly what she needed now? And where would this postgraduate degree be? She asked, still hesitant. In New York, Adam answered. I know it's far, but maybe that's exactly what you need right now. Distance, a new environment, new perspectives. Emily remained silent for a few moments, absorbing everything Adam had said. The idea of leaving everything behind and starting over in a completely new place was both frightening and tempting. I don't know what to say, she finally spoke. It's an incredible offer, but... Adam raised his hand, gently interrupting her. You don't need to decide now. Take your time, talk to your family. Here's my card. When you're ready to talk more about it, just call me. He stood up, straightening his impeccable suit. Before saying goodbye, he looked into Emily's eyes one more time. Remember, Emily, sometimes the greatest opportunities arise in the most unexpected moments. Don't let fear of the unknown prevent you from embracing a new future. With those words, Adam left, leaving Emily sitting on the garden bench, his card in her hands and her mind full of new possibilities. In the days that followed, Emily couldn't stop thinking about Adam's offer. She spent hours researching New York, Adam's company, and postgraduate programs in environmental engineering. The more she read, the more excited she became about the idea. One night, during dinner, Emily finally gathered the courage to share the proposal with her parents. Mr. and Mrs. Anderson listened attentively, their faces a mixture of surprise and concern. New York? But it's so far away, honey, said Mrs. Anderson, her voice trembling. Mr. Anderson, on the other hand, seemed thoughtful. It's quite an opportunity, Emily, but are you sure you're ready for such a big change? Emily took a deep breath before answering. Honestly, I'm not sure of anything right now, but I know I need a change. I need to rediscover myself, away from everything that happened here. Her parents exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them. Finally, Mr. Anderson spoke. If this is what you want, sweetheart, we'll support your decision. Mrs. Anderson, with tears in her eyes, held Emily's hand. We just want you to be happy, my love. If you think this will make you happy, then go. But know that you'll always have a home here with us. Her parents' words brought tears to Emily's eyes. She hugged them tightly, grateful for the unconditional support they had always given her. The next morning, with trembling hands, Emily picked up the phone and dialed the number on Adam's card. When he answered, her voice was firm and decided. Hello, Adam. It's Emily. I accept your offer. On the other end of the line, Emily could hear the smile in Adam's voice. I'm very happy to hear that, Emily. I'm sure you won't regret it. Let's start the preparations immediately. As she hung up the phone, Emily looked out her bedroom window. The sun was rising on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of pink and orange. It was as if the universe was giving her a sign, showing that a new day, a new life was about to begin. With a mix of fear and expectation, Emily began to pack. Each piece of clothing she folded, each personal item she put away, was like closing a chapter of her life and preparing to write a completely new one. New York, with its imposing skyscrapers and bustling streets, awaited her. And with it, the promise of a new beginning, far from the pains of the past and full of possibilities for the future. The plane touched down at John F. Kennedy International Airport with a slight jolt, pulling Emily from her thoughts. She looked out the window, marveling at the sight of the city that stretched as far as the eye could see. The glass and steel towers reflected the scorching sun, creating a spectacle of light that seemed unreal. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to New York City. The current temperature is 85 degrees. The pilot's voice echoed through the speakers. Emily took a deep breath, feeling the weight of reality. She was really here, thousands of miles from home, about to start a new life. As she disembarked, she was greeted by a driver holding a sign with her name. Miss Thompson, he asked with a polite smile. "Mr. Sinclair asked me to take you directly to your new apartment." During the ride from the airport to the city center, Emily was impressed by the contrast between the old and the new. Futuristic buildings rose alongside historic landmarks, and luxury cars shared the streets with iconic yellow taxis. The apartment that Adam had arranged for her was located in an elegant high-rise with a view of Central Park. When she entered, Emily was breathless. The space was spacious, decorated with a mix of modern furniture and classic New York touches. On the coffee table, she found an envelope with her name. Inside was an invitation card. "Dear Emily, welcome to New York. I hope your trip was smooth and that you're enjoying your new home. I'd like to invite you to dinner tonight at 8 p.m. at the restaurant atop the One World Trade Center. It will be an opportunity to discuss the details of your study program and your future position in the company. I look forward to seeing you. Adam." Emily felt a mix of anxiety and excitement wash over her. Everything was happening so fast, and she had barely had time to process the magnitude of the change in her life. At 7:45 p.m., Emily arrived at One World Trade Center, the iconic building that had become a symbol of New York's resilience. The restaurant at the top of the building offered a panoramic view of the city, and Emily found herself admiring the lights that stretched to the horizon. "It's breathtaking, isn't it?" A familiar voice pulled her from her reverie. Adam had arrived, impeccably dressed in a dark suit that contrasted with his tanned skin. "Adam, it's incredible," Emily responded, still in awe of the view. During dinner, they discussed the details of the postgraduate program that Emily would start the following week, as well as her future responsibilities in Adam's company. "I'm developing a project for sustainable urban development," explained Adam, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. "I believe your experience in environmental engineering will be crucial to the success of this endeavor." Emily listened attentively, fascinated by the possibilities. However, one question wouldn't leave her mind. "Adam, why me?" "I still don't understand why you're doing all this for me." Adam smiled, his gaze becoming distant for a moment. "Emily, sometimes life presents us with unexpected opportunities. When you saved me that night, I saw in your eyes not only compassion, but also a fierce determination. I believe in your potential, and I want to give you the chance to fully achieve it." Adam's words touched Emily deeply. For the first time since she arrived in New York, she felt she had made the right decision. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activities. Emily dove headfirst into her studies, fascinated by the complexity of the environmental challenges faced by a city like New York. Her classes were taught by renowned professors from around the world, and she found herself surrounded by equally brilliant and ambitious colleagues. However, it wasn't all smooth sailing. As the initial excitement began to wane, Emily found herself struggling with homesickness and a sense of displacement in a culture so different from her own. The local customs, the relentless pace of the city, and even the time difference that made calls to her parents difficult, began to weigh on her. One night, about 2 months after her arrival, Emily found herself crying alone in her apartment, memories of what she had left behind in her hometown tormenting her. Nathan's face, the laughter of her old friends, the comfort of her parents' home. Everything seemed so distant now. It was in this moment of fragility that her phone rang. It was Adam. "Emily, sorry to call so late, but I had an idea for the urban development project and wanted to share it with you." Adam's animated voice brought Emily back to reality. She wiped away her tears and forced herself to focus on work. As Adam explained his thoughts, Emily felt her mind light up with possibilities. They spent hours discussing ideas, and when they finally hung up, it was almost dawn. Looking out the window, seeing the sun rise over the New York skyline, Emily felt a renewal of purpose. Yes, she missed home, but she was also building something new and important here. The weeks turned into months, and Emily gradually found her rhythm in her new life. Her contributions to the urban development project began to attract attention not only from Adam but also from other industry leaders. She was invited to present her ideas at international conferences and soon found herself at the center of a growing movement for sustainable solutions in urban environments. One day, while working late at the office, Emily received an unexpected notification on her phone. It was a message from Olivia, one of her former friends from her hometown. Emily's heart raced when she saw the name. I know you probably don't want to talk to me, but you need to know the truth. Things aren't what they seem. Please give me a chance to explain." Emily was paralyzed, staring at the message. All the feelings she had tried to bury over the past few months came to the surface at once. Should she respond? Ignore it? What did Olivia mean by the truth? Before she could decide what to do, she heard a soft knock on the door. It was Adam. "Emily, is everything okay? You look pale." She looked at Adam, then back at the phone. At that moment, Emily realized she was at a crossroads. The past she had left behind in her hometown and the future she was building in New York seemed to collide. "Adam, I think I need to go back home," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Adam's eyes widened in surprise. "Go back? But why? I thought you were happy here." Emily hesitated, the words stuck in her throat. How could she explain the complexity of her emotions? How to say that, despite all the wonderful opportunities New York had offered her, a part of her still yearned for answers, for closure. "I am happy here, Adam, more than I imagined I could be. But there are unresolved issues at home, things I need to face if I really want to move forward." Adam observed her for a long moment, his face a mixture of understanding and concern. Finally, he nodded. "I understand, Emily. Sometimes to really move forward, we need to take a step back. I'll arrange everything for your trip." Emily felt a wave of gratitude for Adam. "Thank you. I promise I'll come back as soon as I resolve these issues." As she prepared for the trip back home, Emily couldn't help but feel a mix of anxiety and determination. What awaited her in her hometown? What truths did Olivia want to reveal? And how would this affect the future she had begun to build in New York? With a heavy heart, but resolute, Emily boarded the plane back home, knowing that the answers she sought could change everything once again. The familiar sights and sounds of her hometown greeted Emily as she stepped out of the airport. The air felt different here, carrying memories of a life she had left behind. With a mix of apprehension and determination, she made her way to the hotel where she had booked a room. Once settled, Emily took a deep breath and dialed Olivia's number. Her heart raced as she waited for an answer. "Emily." Olivia's voice was a mixture of surprise and relief. I didn't think you'd call." "You said you had something to tell me," Emily replied, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. "I'm here now. Let's meet." They agreed to meet at a small cafe downtown, a neutral ground that held no specific memories for either of them. As Emily walked into the cafe, she spotted Olivia immediately. Her once friend looked pale and nervous, fidgeting with a napkin on the table. Olivia stood up, her voice wavering. "Thank you for coming." Emily sat down, her face a mask of composure. "You said you had the truth to tell, so tell me." Olivia took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for her purse. She pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. "Everything we told you that day, it was a lie. A terrible, horrible lie that spiraled out of control." Emily felt her heart skip a beat. "What do you mean? The photos, the messages, they were all fake." Olivia's voice cracked. "Nathan never cheated on you. We were manipulated into believing he had." As Olivia continued to explain, Emily felt as if the ground was shifting beneath her feet. It turned out that Jason, Sophia's ex-boyfriend, had orchestrated the entire scheme. Bitter about their breakup and jealous of Nathan's success, he had created an elaborate plan to ruin not just Nathan's life, but Emily's as well. "But why did you go along with it?" Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Tears streamed down Olivia's face. "We thought we were protecting you. Jason showed us evidence that seemed so real. We were stupid and scared. By the time we realized the truth, it was too late. You were gone." Emily's mind reeled with this new information. Everything she had believed for months, the pain she had carried, the decisions she had made, all based on a lie. "And Nathan?" she asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. Olivia's expression softened. "He never gave up on you, Em. He's been searching for you all this time. When he found out you were in New York, he was ready to fly there, but what?" Emily pressed. "But we convinced him to wait. We told him you were building a new life, that maybe it was best to let you go. We thought we were doing the right thing again." The weight of all these revelations felt crushing. Emily stood up abruptly, needing air, needing space to process everything she had just learned. "I need time," she said to Olivia, who looked up at her with pleading eyes. I can't deal with this right now." As Emily walked out of the cafe, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Adam. "Hope everything's okay. The team misses you. Take all the time you need." Emily stared at the message, feeling torn between two worlds, the life she had started to build in New York and the one she had left behind here, the one that now seemed to be calling her back. She found herself walking aimlessly through the familiar streets of her hometown, memories flooding back with each step. She ended up at the park where Nathan had proposed to her, and as if summoned by her thoughts, she saw him. Nathan was sitting on their favorite bench, looking out at the pond. He seemed older somehow. Lines of worry etched on his face that hadn't been there before. Emily's heart raced. Should she approach him? What would she say? Before she could decide, Nathan turned and their eyes met. Time seemed to stand still as they looked at each other across the distance. Then, slowly, Nathan stood up and walked towards her. "Emily," he said, his voice filled with a mix of disbelief and hope. "Is it really you?" Emily felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Nathan, I just found out the truth. I'm so sorry. I should have trusted you. I should have—" Nathan cut her off by pulling her into a tight embrace. "No, Em, you have nothing to be sorry for. We were both victims in this. I'm just so glad you're here now." As they held each other, Emily felt a sense of coming home, of pieces falling back into place. But she also felt the pull of her new life, of the person she had become in New York. "Nathan," she said, pulling back slightly to look into his eyes. "So much has changed. I've changed. I don't know if we can just pick up where we left off." Nathan nodded, understanding in his eyes. "I know. I don't expect that. But Em, if you're willing, I'd like the chance to get to know you again. The you that you are now." Emily felt a glimmer of hope, of possibility. But she also knew she had commitments, a life she had started to build in New York. She thought of Adam, of the project, of all the people counting on her. "I need some time," she said finally, "to figure things out, to decide what I want." Nathan smiled softly. "I understand. I've waited this long. Waited this. I can wait a little longer." As Emily walked back to her hotel that night, her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. She had a decision to make, one that would shape the course of her future. Should she return to New York, to the exciting career and new life she had begun to build? Or should she stay here, reconnect with Nathan, and explore the possibility of rekindling what they once had? She knew that whatever choice she made, it would come with its own set of challenges and sacrifices. But for the first time in months, Emily felt a sense of hope. She had the truth now, and with it the power to shape her own destiny. As she lay in bed that night, Emily made a decision. She would take the time to rediscover herself, to figure out what she truly wanted. Whether that led her back to New York or kept her in her hometown, she knew one thing for certain: she would face the future on her own terms, with honesty and courage. The journey ahead would not be easy, but Emily was ready to embrace it, whatever it might bring. In the days that followed, Emily found herself on an emotional roller coaster. She spent time with Nathan, rediscovering the connection they once shared, but also feeling the weight of all that had happened between them. They walked through familiar streets, reminiscing about old times, while also sharing stories of their lives apart. Meanwhile, Emily kept in touch with Adam, updating him on her situation. He was understanding, giving her the space she needed, while also reminding her of the exciting projects waiting for her in New York. One afternoon, as Emily sat in her childhood bedroom, surrounded by memories of her past, she received a call from Sophia. "Em, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from," Sophia's voice trembled, "but I needed to apologize. What we did, it's unforgivable." Emily listened silently as Sophia poured out her regrets and explanations. The pain in her former friend's voice was palpable, and Emily found herself torn between anger and compassion. "I don't know if I can ever fully forgive you," Emily said finally, "but I appreciate your honesty now. It's a start." After hanging up, Emily felt a sense of closure she hadn't realized she needed. The conversation with Sophia had helped her understand that moving forward didn't necessarily mean forgetting the past, but rather learning from it and choosing how it would shape her future. That evening, Emily met Nathan for dinner at their favorite restaurant. As they sat across from each other, the familiarity of it all both comforting and strange, Emily knew it was time to have an honest conversation. "Nathan," she began, her voice soft but firm. "These past few days with you have been wonderful. A part of me wishes we could just pick up where we left off, pretend none of this ever happened." Nathan reached across the table, taking her hand. "But we can't, can we?" he said, a sad smile on his face. Emily shook her head. "No, we can't. Too much has changed. I've changed. The girl you were going to marry, in many ways, she doesn't exist anymore." "I see that," Nathan replied. "And I want you to know, Em, I love the woman you've become just as much as the one I knew before. Maybe even more because of all you've overcome." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. "I love you too, Nathan. I don't think I ever really stopped, but you have a life in New York now," Nathan finished for her. "A career, opportunities, a chance to make a real difference in the world." Emily nodded, relieved that he understood. "It's not just that. This whole experience has taught me that I need to stand on my own, to know who I am outside of our relationship. I need to see this through to become the person I'm meant to be." Nathan squeezed her hand. "I understand, Em. And as much as it hurts to say goodbye again, I'm proud of you. You deserve to chase your dreams to become everything you can be." They spent the rest of the evening talking, laughing, and crying. It was a bittersweet farewell, but also a celebration of the love they had shared and the growth they had both experienced. The next morning, Emily stood at the airport, ready to return to New York. Her parents were there to see her off, along with Nathan. "You'll always have a home here," her mother said, hugging her tightly. "And we'll always be proud of you," her father added, his voice gruff with emotion. Finally, Emily turned to Nathan. They looked at each other for a long moment, words unnecessary between them. "Go change the world, Em," Nathan said, pulling her into one last embrace. "Just don't forget about us little people back home." Emily laughed through her tears. "Never," she promised. As she boarded the plane, Emily felt a mix of sadness and excitement. She was leaving behind the comfort of the familiar, the possibility of rekindling her relationship with Nathan. But she was also returning to a life she had built for herself, to opportunities and challenges that would help her grow. The flight back to New York gave Emily time to reflect on all that had happened and all that lay ahead. By the time the plane touched down, she felt a renewed sense of purpose and clarity. Adam was waiting for her at the airport, a warm smile on his face. "Welcome back, Emily," he said. "I hope you found the answers you were looking for." Emily smiled back, feeling ready to tackle whatever challenges lay ahead. "I did," she replied, "and I'm ready to get back to work. We have a world to change, don't we?" As they drove through the bustling streets of New York, Emily felt a sense of coming home. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be moments of doubt, of homesickness, of wondering what if, but she also knew that this was where she needed to be right now. In the weeks and months that followed, Emily threw herself into her work with renewed passion. Her experiences had given her a unique perspective, and she found herself approaching problems with a depth and empathy she hadn't possessed before. She kept in touch with her parents and even occasionally with Nathan, their friendship evolving into something new and precious. And while a part of her heart would always belong to her hometown and the life she might have had there, Emily knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. As she stood on the balcony of her apartment one evening, looking out over the glittering New York skyline, Emily felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had faced her past, made difficult choices, and emerged stronger for it. Whatever the future held, she was ready to face it head-on, with courage, determination, and an open heart. The girl who had once fled her wedding in tears was gone. In her place stood a woman who had found her strength, her purpose, and herself. And as the sun set over the city, Emily smiled, ready for whatever adventure life had in store for her next.